We present then the triumphant order. One of the great fears of mankind that, if I recall correctly, was reported by Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich, was the fear of failure. There is little doubt in our mind that in the midst of an era when success culture and success cults are thriving, that these particular types of teachings thrive because of the fears of men. To me, they are indicative of human fear, of failure. Perhaps the worst specter, then, that could loom in the consciousness of any of us would be a feeling that our life had been in vain. Tycho Brahe, the Danish astronomer, as he was upon his deathbed, said, "I pray that in some way my life will not have been lived in vain." There is little doubt that among those that are called the little people of the earth, the rank and file, that there is just as much desire to be successful in their own domain as those who are great striding figures in history. And I suppose that it is absolutely true that the masses of the people, in their miniature unrecorded success, those unsung heroes, do themselves constitute an order of progress, without which society could not possibly have made her advances. We all like to see the striking figure, the movie star, the political man, the great author, the great orator, and so forth, the famous physician, the good physician, the mighty preacher like Peter Marshall, all these people. We like to think of these great people. And I suppose that in a way this is because there is a great deal of greatness in us all. Yet everyone does not achieve world acclaim. We must then recognize that the words that Shakespeare so beautifully declared, "This above all to thine own self be true," are still effective today in showing us that we must create our own standards and then live up to them, doing the best we can to make our life a thing of worth, a significant contribution to the world order. However, even though men are snared in mediocrity, they have a great desire to be a part of the triumphant order. As we envision it in our present studies under the guidance of the ascended masters, the triumphant order is really the Brotherhood in white. There is an idea among men that the Great White Brotherhood is an organization that stands aloof from mankind, that in order to become a part of it, a man must either give up everything or be chosen especially by some great masters by a strange and weird thaumaturgical process that says, perhaps, now you're in, now you're out, now you're in, now you're out, and then at last decides, yes, you're in. Not so. The masters have revealed clearly that the Great White Brotherhood will always welcome what they call voluntary participating service on the part of any individual who wishes to ally themselves with the brothers in white in service. There are those who have written of the Great White Brotherhood in the Essene vein, and they have in some way related the Great White Brotherhood to the Essene Fellowship. Not the Essene Fellowship of today, but of many centuries ago. Somehow or other, it's really quite strange, then, that people may, 2,000 years from now, relate the Great White Brotherhood to the Summit Lighthouse. but it would not be true. For it is a question of which came first, the chicken or the egg, but not really. Because the Great White Brotherhood is the parent organization. The Essene brothers were an offshoot of the Great White Brotherhood, formed under the direction of the Brotherhood. Why, the whole Christian church and the Buddhist movement in its original work was also formed under the Great White Brotherhood. And most of the religions of the world that have had a significant contribution to world progress in religious thought and in morality and virtue and in helping men to live according to cosmic law have all been under the guidance of the Great White Brotherhood. And even those organizations that started out simply by the visions of one or more men or women, when they reached a point where the masses were working through them, that is, were involved in them, at that point, the Great White Brotherhood often came on the scene and sent in to the organization, either through the birth process or by deliberately sending in individuals or sending even angels and cosmic beings down to contact some of these people. Emissaries who tried to help the religion or the association or the organization or the group of individuals to be more serviceful, to become wiser, to become united to some of the inner branches of the Brotherhood so that they would expand their light. The Great White Brotherhood, then, constitutes a triumphant order. It is made up of those who have graduated from the schoolrooms of earth. I think it is probably one of the most unfortunate things in the world that young men and women go to high school and then to the university, and after they stand up there and receive the diploma and go out into the world, they have the sense that now they have graduated. Actually, all they have at their commencement exercise is a sort of a fiat of commencement. They have a beginning, a declaration of their intention to assume their role in life. Of course, they're better equipped because of their education. But unless they apply that education correctly, not just as an unguent to salve their human feelings, unless they apply it correctly to the betterment of man, not just to the idea of making more money, but of contributing something of genuine worth to society, they will probably join the ranks of mediocrity. Because the triumphant order consists of those who are selflessly dedicated to the betterment of man. The triumphant order spans the ages. Men and women who are actually connected with the Great White Brotherhood and have passed through the initiatic degrees of the Brotherhood and have taken first, second, third, and fourth, and fifth, and so on initiations. These individuals are, of course, exerting more than ordinary pressure in the world affairs. However, let it be known that some of them are not known at all in the outer world. I have been on trains under the direction of K-17 in the Cosmic Secret Service, and I have come in contact with some of these individuals who did not know that I was capable of reading their aura and picking them out or detecting them from among the masses, individuals that were bent or sent on a cosmic job. They were doing something. They were on a mission. And of course, I didn't dare to say a word to anyone. But these beings were and are traveling all the time through the country. Some of them are on airplanes. They fly into India. They fly into Egypt. They fly into Rome and Paris. They're on trains. They're on boats. They're everywhere. These people are not joiners of necessity. They may not join any fraternity. They may, of course, join a fraternity. They are both in and out of fraternities and churches and organizations. Some of them are employed, and some of them have so much money available to them through their family that they don't work at all except for the Brotherhood. Some of them are rich and some of them are poor. Some of them live in the United States, some in India, some in Mexico. We could even go down now into Mexico, to a certain place in Mexico where one of these great spiritual beings sits there on a ranch of sheep and looks like a sheep herder. But the man can write the most sublime music that you have ever heard in your life. And he's able to attune with cosmic spheres and with the higher recordings of the masters and the angelic host, and then bring it forth into the outer realm. The triumphant order then moves among us. They move among us unknown to most of us. They are composed of both men and women, and their work is absolutely transcendent. They dare not, of course, in some cases, be identified or identify themselves. But from time to time, those who work with humanity come out into the open and will help individuals specifically. When they are ready, the master teacher appears. From time to time, there are certain relationships established between individuals whereby the Chela on the path meets one of these beings and is given specific assistance. However, once again, I must caution that there is a pitfall involved here. And I'm going to tell you what it is right in the middle of this lecture. All over America, there are egotistical people who take advantage of spiritual power. They have failed in business, failed in society, and failed in everything else, so they decide to try their hand at being the guru. They read a few mystical books, read about the occult, a little hocus pocus here and a little hocus pocus there, and the first thing you know, they decide to build a group around themselves. They are the guru. They are the master. They have absolute attainment with the cosmos. All the masters come to them and through them. We must be very careful that we ourselves are never tempted to try to bring people under the influence of our personality per se. We must always seek to bring people under the influence of their divinity, of their own beloved God presence, their I am presence, their true beingness. And this is absolutely true of the spiritual order, the triumphant order of the ages. It is true then of all of us that we must seek to be attuned with the triumphant order. We must be willing to assume the humble role. We must be willing to work in the fields if necessary, or in the forest, or as an airplane pilot, or a doctor, or a nurse, or a housewife, even a mother or a father, factory worker, street sweeper, minister, artist, and just about any vocation you can think of. The triumphant order is made up, as you will see if you read Henry Van Dyke's poem, The Psalm of the Helpers, of just about anybody. In another poem he says, "The Lord of love came down from above to dwell with the men who work." We have to be willing then, as Moria has said, to roll up our sleeves and to do whatever task is given to us in this world, and not to feel that we are too good to do anything. I can remember of reading a long time ago about St. Teresa, the little flower, and how she had a cancer in the region of her knee or leg. And yet, in the monastery or place where she was working under the other sisters and working with them, she would scrub the stairs and never complain. And when she passed on, they finally found this cancer, which had eaten away a large portion of her limb. It is an interesting fact, then, that we realize that human beings will sometimes martyr themselves in the cause of freedom and seek to achieve no earthly or temporal recognition. During the course of our history as an organization, at La Tourelle, from time to time, individuals come seeking to render some service to the masters. It is an interesting thing from our standpoint. In one sense of the word, I act as the abbot of the place. And when people come to me and apply to render a service there, they come in two ways. Some come and say, "What can I do to help?" And I'll say, "What can you do?" And they'll say, "Well, I can type, or I can cook, or I can sew, or I can rake leaves, or I can garden, or I can do this and that. But I would rather have a job in the office. I'd like to open letters, or I'd like to do something dignified." Others will come in and say, Just tell me anything that I can do and I'll do it. It doesn't make any difference. Don't pamper me, don't baby me. I'm here to serve. And as I gaze at these people, those who say, I can do this and I can do that and the other thing, but please try to find me a job doing this, and those who say, I will do anything, I have usually noticed that the ones who say, I can do anything and I will keep their word and they will do anything, and they are there, Johnny on the spot, at the exact hour that they should be. Those who sometimes say it another way are very prone to break their promise. They may make an appointment to say, well, I'll be there tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock at your gate, and I'll have breakfast with you. And then I'll work all day for the masters on the property doing so-and-so. When the day comes, they never show up. They never call up, and if you pick up the phone and ask them by phone or try to get in touch with them, they're not anywhere where you can reach them. And sometimes they'll go 2 or 3 days, and then they may appear at the gate and say, oh, well, I had something else to do. And so we get exposed to the different types of people, and we realize that the triumphant order is made up of people who qualify themselves with an absolute willingness to serve and an absolute willingness to love. These people recognize that God needs all types of workers in his vineyard, that each of us may in our time play many roles, that some of the humble roles are just as necessary as the important seeming roles. For example, a lot of people think that, it would be a wonderful thing to stand here on the platform where I am. They would like to do this, but they wouldn't particularly like to do something else, like lug things around, carry out organs, and make tape recordings, play pianos and things like that. But did you ever stop to think that maybe I was a very bad man sometime in the past, and that now I have to try to help all those people that I led astray? You never can tell, you see. And this is actually the case in some cases. I didn't say it was in my case. I merely said that it could be. And therefore, it isn't always the easiest task, the task that looks so easy, because there are frustrations at almost any level. And sometimes I think that the more elevated the position in the eyes of men, the more frustrations. But nevertheless, what we should be concerned with is to triumph in all that we do. After all, if you stop and think about it right now, from the divine level, that the cosmic hosts are forbidden by cosmic law from what we call direct intervention in the affairs of men, that they must use us, our hands and feet, our mouths, our brains, our activity, then you see that heaven, in one sense of the word, can be very hamstrung by earth's non-acceptance of responsibility. If we say, well, we're not going to do it, we'll let George do it, or someone else do it. Well, you see, the masters by cosmic law can't turn around and say, oh, yes, you will. Oh, of course, if you're apprenticed to one of them, absolutely under their direction, and you have agreed to it, then they might be able by cosmic law to say, well, remember, you agreed to it, and I agreed in return to do so-and-so. That's a little different. But a lot of people sort of want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to serve the masters as long as the glory is coming down. But when the hard uphill pull comes, they're not too willing to do it. I happen to know from personal experience that when a dictation is being given and cosmic energies are literally boiling through the room, that many people are all on the master's side. But after the fires have died out and we've banked the coals up a little bit and the chill of the night comes on and situations require a little work and we have to go out and get some more firewood and we have to consider another day's coming and the provisions that are necessary for something else, people sometimes have a tendency to fade away like the Arabians, just unpitch their tents and silently steal away. And I don't blame them, of course. I know exactly how people feel. Responsibility is an awesome thing, but somebody has to do it. There has to be a triumphant order, and the triumphant order has to seek to reproduce order down here on earth, even as order is already reproduced in the heavens. There was a song that went something like this: the heavens are telling. It is true. The heavens are telling us of precision movements, more accurate by far than a Swiss watch, beautiful movements in the sun, the moon, and the stars. Not only prognostications and celestial influences, but marvelous machinations of the cosmos, beautiful parabolic curves and swirls, pools and reservoirs of cosmic energy. Cosmic mastership is being demonstrated all through nature by the beings of the elements, who really do not have a very titled name. Many of these poor little elementals, with the exception of King Neptune and our beloved Aramesis and Diana, and of course the other directors of the elements, they really have a more or less thankless task. They sort of exist as a perennial ballet in nature to carry on in the functions of nature and take off all of the cesspool of human resentment and degradation, while we ourselves, of course, hardly ever pause to thank the tiny beings of the elements. Well, the triumphant order, then, is actually created as a bridge between the brotherhood of angels, men, and elementals. We're supposed to try to integrate the cosmos. Those who are against this type of integration better beware, because God is very much interested in it occurring. But in order to integrate something, you have to know a little bit about what you're trying to integrate. I don't want to be integrated with something I don't know anything about, do you? Well, therefore, right now, if someone asked you to write a thesis on the angelic host, how many in this room could put up their hand and say they could write a thesis on the angelic host? How many know the names of the 7 archangels in this room? Put up their hands. How many don't know the names of the 7 archangels? Let's be honest about it now. There's a lot of them here, see? So who are the 7 archangels? One of the most well-known angels is Archangel Michael. He's the Lord of the blue ray. That is, I mean the angel of the blue ray. Archangel Michael. Now then, who is the archangel of illumination, of the illumination ray? Archangel Jophiel. Exactly. Then you come along now to who is the archangel of the pink ray? Chamuel, of course. Then you get over here to the white ray, and you have Gabriel. He's the angel that stands in the presence of God, with a ray of purity that made the Annunciation to Mary. Then after you get to Gabriel, Raphael is the archangel of healing. You come to the angel of ministration and service, and that's Uriel. And who is the archangel of transmutation? Zadkiel. That's right. So then you have the whole 7 archangels. Well, you see, there's an awful lot to learn about the hierarchy of heaven. There's a lot to learn about the masters. Well, one of the problems that I think bothers a lot of people is the idea of pantheism. Oh, my goodness. It's so easy if we can just have God and Jesus and the angels and say the angels. But when we start having all of these different masters, it becomes most disturbing. Well, it doesn't need to be, because I want you to know that there are millions of masters. But the Great White Brotherhood has certain ones that spearhead themselves, such as the Lord of the First Ray, El Moria, that we heard this afternoon, and the Lord of the Second Ray, beloved Lanto, and the Lord of the Third Ray, Paul the Venetian, and the Lord of the Fourth Ray, Serapis Bey, and the Lord of the Fifth Ray is Hilarion, and the Lord of the Sixth Ray is beloved Nada, and the Lord of the Seventh Ray is beloved Saint Germain. Well, these beings, of course, we are acquainted with. Now, the reason why the masters don't bring the whole panoply of ascended masters, millions of them strong, to our attention is because it would look like the Los Angeles telephone book. And there wouldn't be any point in our calling all these numbers because we're not acquainted with them. And most of the masters that have agreed to serve the evolutions of this earth are involved in the ones we know, such as Saint Germain and Jesus and Nada and these others. They have agreed to work with the evolutions of this earth. And so they are doing it. And the masters know that all the ascended masters are one. So when you start sending your love to any one of them, you're actually coming in contact with all of them. And someday, we are going to fulfill the goal of ourselves becoming one. And when we reach that point in heaven, where we have the pure Christed consciousness of the great white brotherhood. And this is a very significant point that I do want you to get. When we all get the consciousness of the great white brotherhood, of the order triumphant, we are not going to accentuate our differences, because we will not have any. You see, we will all have the same spirit of the one God in manifestation. We will have completed our attainment, but we will have brought forth unique facets of manifestation. We will contribute our own specific brand of cosmic grandeur to the universe. And this is what Jesus meant when he said, "The Father worketh hitherto, and I work, and I shall be in you, and you shall be in me, and I am in you, and the Father is in me, and I am in the Father." Jesus said, "The things that I do, you shall do, and greater things than I do shall you do, because I go to my Father," and most people don't understand that. It simply means that the order of the day, every day, is progress, that God himself is transcendent, that God tomorrow will be greater than he was today, that he transcends himself, that we are progressing along the road, and that the things that Jesus did in their time were the greatest. But tomorrow, you're going to do greater things, because the energy and love that I brought into the world and the universe will have joined the Godhead to be tapped by you while you're down below. And as you tap my energy and the energy of others of the ascended masters, and as you bring my energy down into the world and add to it the greatness of your own dedication, it will be greater than mine alone now, because it will have the plus factor of your love and devotion added to my love and devotion, and the love and devotion of all of the masters along the road. And this then creates a triumphant order of the ages to which we can all belong. The exact moment of our initiation may not be known. The exact moment of our measured attainment may not be known. But the highest resolve of each soul is noted on the cosmic record. And if right now, inwardly, in your own heart, without any outward declaration, without trying to impress your neighbor with your greatness, at this moment, if you really want to be a part of the triumphant order, and you so resolve an order in your heart, unbeknownst to any, the great masters and the recording angels will make their own mark upon your record. You will then prepare yourself by a correct attitude of mind to become a cosmic alchemist in the world of form, to transform your own life and thereby transform society. For what man has done, man can do. What man then does assists other men. And as you become a part of the triumphant order, and as other men put their shoulder to the wheel, the power of this universal atlas will move the world, because we are dealing now under divine direction, under spiritual direction, with a universal order of the ages, an order that moves in life waves and in planetary chains, an order that moves in cosmic circles within cosmic circles, an order that seeks to bring out of the order of the present a greater order for tomorrow. This is the world to which we belong, a world that marches on. As time marches on, so marches eternity. The order triumphs.